Learn how to build a full-stack application using ChatGPT. In this course, you'll learn how to leverage the power of ChatGPT to accelerate your development process and make programming smoother. Judy is a full-stack developer and teacher. In this course, she'll demonstrate how to build an educational application using ChatGPT to ask questions about coding syntax, troubleshooting, and learning best practices. You'll also discover how to use ChatGPT to build various features, including authentication, browsing courses, and creating categories. So let's get started and see how ChatGPT can help you build amazing applications with minimal manual coding.
Hello everyone, this is Judy, and in this video I'll show you how to use ChatGPT on every step of the way for full stack development. One of the benefits of ChatGPT is its abilities of accelerating development and making programming or learning process much smoother. During this walkthrough, we'll build an educational application, and you're going to see that minimal manual coding is done, but don't take my word for it, watch the tutorial. Examples of questions we will ask ChatGPT include coding syntax, troubleshooting, learning best practices, and receiving guidance on picking the right tools and platform for your project. Also, using it into our application, we'll build various features such as authentication, browsing courses, its categories, and many more. I'm thrilled to present various prompts I have explored and demonstrate how you can make most of ChatGPT, so without further delay, let's dive right into it. When using ChatGPT as a coding assistant, it's important to provide the right context. The model has been trained on various kinds of data, and its default answers can be quite generic. However, by providing more specific information, we can achieve better results. With that in mind, I'm going to ask it to act as a developer. So I'll say I want you to act as a software developer. I will provide some specific information, and this is where we give it indications as to what its mission is throughout this conversation, which is to come up with an architecture for developing easy-to-use course app. So far, this description contains very general information. The goal of this app is to allow users to take online courses on different subjects. And below, let's list features we want the app to include, which is going to be authentication, courses, and their categories. We also want course search, payments, and functionality of saving courses. As an answer, ChatGPT proposes an architecture and provides a division of the stack. It offers, as you can see, sections for both front-end and back-end development, with suggestions for tools and approaches within each section. Let's review the list, and furthermore, you can reuse this template. The description may differ depending on the situation, but still could be useful reference for your future projects. And if you want more comprehensive guidelines on building full stack apps, check out my Notion template for full stack roadmap. I have included all the parts of the stack as well as the topics and resources you would need to build applications, and yeah, check the link in the description if you're interested. All right, let's go over the list now. We have user interface, developer responsive, user-friendly UI using modern technologies such as React and Angular to provide an intuitive and engaging user experience. So for the authentication, a scalable solution, and it provided us with options of OAuth, JWT, and OpenID Connect. These are indeed, I would say, one of the most popular ways of authenticating users. Then we have course listings, display in user-friendly, allow users to browse and search, implement filters and sorting options for enhanced visibility. Okay, most of the searches do have indeed filters and different options, so for sorting that's good. Payments are processed through two common solutions, Stripe and PayPal, and additionally we have course details, course progress tracking, and the ability to save progress to your profile. Let's take a look at the backend. What components do we need? First, we need an API so that the data can be communicated between the backend and the frontend using a backend framework. such as Node.js, Django, or Laravel. Once we have that, we can focus on the database. ChatGPT answer mentions MongoDB, MySQL, and PostgreSQL as examples, but these are very different solutions. And to get started, let's pick one database and gather as many details as possible about it. So I'm gonna say, let's start with database. How would you structure it? And would you pick relational over non-relational here? If you don't know the differences between the two, you can also ask what kind of databases are there in general. So it would return a list of like descriptions and differences. And it does suggest to our question to use both. And let's understand what's the reasoning behind it. So consistency and clarity are crucial when defining relationships between entities, such as profiles and courses. While it's straightforward to determine whether a user is enrolled in a course or not, tracking course progress can vary significantly between user and courses. Therefore, it doesn't require strict consistency, and I agree with this statement. We do not need like a very structured data for progress, but we do need a more clear definitions for courses and the profiles entities itself. Let's dive into the courses table, and I would say, how would you structure courses? And ChatGPT returns fields for the table, but we can also ask it to print the output in a tabular format for better visualization. So that's another prompt to remember. And this is the stage where you can request modifications and iterations before jumping into building the app. Since this would drive the core functionalities, I would recommend taking enough time to think about it. However, don't spend too much time on it, not to delay the start of the project. And when it comes to getting assistance from ChatGPT, it's good to have this like step-by-step approach. So for example, I don't want to add the metadata, so I'm going to ask, can you remove metadata from the table? And it should output a new table without it. And now we can start thinking, how can this table can be translated into a code? So I'm going to ask it to generate a Prisma file. That is where we define a schema for our database. So it's good that it also marks, for example, course ID that can be used as a primary key. And it also gives us explanation, because this is the first time we're using Prisma in this conversation. So it would define that Prisma is a modern database toolkit that provides type-safe and then intuitive way to define data models and interact with databases in various programming languages. And to note, even though this is created in Prisma, it depends on what kind of language or database you're using it with. And this is also indication where we can give it more details. Also, if let's say you already have used Prisma and you don't want extra explanations, we can just use this prompt code only, and it will be faster if you're generating a big code and want it quicker. Okay, so now my next question would be, how can I use this with the backend that I have picked? And this will give us what Supabase is, which is an open source alternative to the Firebase. And let's see what else it tells us about it. Here's how you can set up Prisma for Supabase. Supabase uses PostgreSQL. And it's also providing us with the information that this is relational type of database. So I'm going to list all the parts of the stack that I'm planning to use. And instead of me going into, for example, 3 different documentations because I want to use Next.js, Supabase, and Tailwind, the ChatGPT should give me all the steps so I don't have to like go look for it. And on top of that, if any of the 2 technologies that I will be using are not compatible, for example, ChatGPT should also point that out. And once it's done printing, I'm gonna follow the steps here with some modifications. First step is to run the command to create next app. And for that, I'm gonna open up a terminal and paste the command here and select the configurations for my Next.js app. I do see that it says there's a next step to install Prisma, but I think Supabase should have its own client, and we can check that with ChatGPT. The answer that we got is that we do need a client module, which is Supabase.js, and it also provided an install command and an example how to use it with the courses table. So going back to the terminal, I think it named it my web app, and then inside here, copy code. While this is installing, another thing that was mentioned here is how to set up Supabase. So that would include creating a new project and obtain connection URL for your Supabase database. And you'll need this URL to connect your Next.js app to Supabase. So let's go and do that. I'm going to open this app. I already have an account, and so I'm going to sign in, create a new project. I'll name it course app. For password, I'm going to let it generate and then copy, press create. Now we need to get the connection URL that was mentioned here. Let's ask ChatGPT what it thinks is the best choice for ID for this project. I do use VS Code, and I think it will also suggest us to use that. And when starting a project with a new stack, it's also helpful to check what extensions are available to use with it. They can assist you in your development process, especially when it comes to different kinds of files and syntax highlighting, error handling. This is what some of the things that extensions can provide. So asking what extensions would you recommend to install for this tech stack. Okay, and now it's listing them arranged into like categories. And you can install, I think I have most of this already, these extensions. So to continue working on the project, I'm going back to the instructions that it gave us. It didn't specify which file to write this code, so I'm going to ask it. Also want the whole application to have access to the Supabase client. Which file should I implement this, and how can I use that implementation in a file? That's great. All right, let's do this. Let's create inside our source new file. And yeah, that is a cleaner way of separating the initiation of an instance of a service. Let's copy this code. I'm going to paste it, and let's ask how we can add environment variables. It's going to tell us to create a new env local file and make sure to add that in. So it's a good thing that it tells us it should be git ignored to prevent it from being committed in a version control. I've seen a lot of developers make a mistake of accidentally committing their API keys, which is like very sensitive information, and end up getting like a crazy high bill from their providers. So to prevent that, let's add those configurations in. Copy the code and paste it here. So that's, first this goes in, yeah. Okay, so then it even gives us the format of how it should look like. And let's copy this from our project. So I'm trying to see where did here it is. So yeah, it probably got example from here, and I'm gonna copy this, replace it with it, and Supabase key, and that's the key. Okay, now I'm gonna save my changes also for the Supabase file, and let's open up the terminal and run the command and run dev so we can start our development instance and navigate to localhost 3000 where our Next.js app should show up. Now the next piece is that, so what we did with Supabase is basically we connected our app to our project in the Supabase. And now let's ask T what it thinks about like writing the schema, I did ask it already to write a schema in Prisma, but there's an option to do that also without a Prisma. So let's see what it says. So push my schema to newly created Supabase project, and do you recommend using Prisma for this course app or just Supabase client? Yeah, so it gave us this Prisma, setting up Prisma steps, but I want to know what it says about just defining, as for whether to use Prisma or Supabase client, it depends on your specific requirements and preferences. Powerful way to interact, including Supabase, it offers advanced features, etc. So it does say that just going with Supabase, it is more suitable for smaller projects or when you prefer a more lightweight approach without the advanced features. A limited choice. So, okay, let's say if we do pick the smaller, more lightweight approach, what it's gonna propose instead. So I'm telling that first thing that I want to do is I want to add the course table. So how can I push that to the Supabase? And it does give me the code that it already printed out. But once you have CRUD operations, okay. But this is just the functions on the client side. We actually need to add the table here. So we can do that also by doing manually, but since we're using ChatGPT, let's figure out a way how can we get that from the script. So let's see, can you write a script for a SQL editor in Supabase? Maybe you'll understand that one. Table for the project. Here's, okay, great. Now let's copy this one. You can execute this on the SQL query or any SQL editor that is connected to your projects to create courses table. Let's see, let's just select table and I'm gonna select all of this, paste this in and click run. Where's this? Here. Success, no rows returned. Now, next part after creating schema is seeding the database. Can you assist in seeding the database? What script can I run to add some rows to course table? And this should generate us by like some sample courses that it will come up with. So for example, we have, and it follows like the structure. So it will create some dummy data, names, descriptions, etc. And let's copy the code and run it into here. Let's go to the table, see if the data has been added here. Great. So now we have the data, so we're ready to copy this code that it wrote for us. So on the client side inside the app, we can display the data. So it created some functions. So CRUD operations. Okay. Perfect. But before we go to the CRUD, let's just display the data. And as I remember, it created this like get function here. Now I'm gonna ask it to create a component that lists all the courses. Yeah, so it also takes in the context that it told us to add this Supabase file in the lib folder, so that's great that it doesn't show how to set up in the beginning. And now I'm gonna copy the code and let's see where it tells us to save this file. Okay, let's just create a new folder for components and course list JSX. We can paste it in here. First, add that into the main page, which is index.js. So I'm gonna remove all this extra code here. Oops. So let's do import. What kind of export? Default? Okay. Import course list from, and this is components. Okay, assuming I imported that correctly, await Supabase from. Okay, so we need to update. Let's see, export default Supabase. Okay, so what it did mistake is the import statement. This should be export default. And here we got the list of courses. The next step would be, as we start creating more components and we're going to have more files, asking it about file structure, best practices, and also naming conventions of these files. The recommended file structure for Next.js using Supabase and Tailwind should be following. Okay, so and then it took into the considerations that we have several features and divided the page into the features. So in Next.js, if you're not already familiar, the way you create a page and the new link is by creating files inside of pages folder. So it created login, sign up, dashboard page for us. And also in courses, we have the list of the courses, course ID, and the new creation course, which is pretty impressive. As for components, layout is what we use, like reusable things in the layout, for example, header, footer, etc. It did create all of those. And I guess the course card, a component for displaying a course card. Okay, interesting. And then we have a setup for Supabase and Tailwind and some styling. Usually we don't have much in the global CSS, and in Tailwind file, any custom code that you update to the Tailwind or like setting a theme goes there. And let's see the explanation. So it just goes through what I mentioned. And for naming conventions, it's recommended to use descriptive. So it offers us two cases, camel case and a kebab case. So let's see which one it went for. Of course, you can name files related to course with course as a prefix. Okay, so course list, that we already have that. And then detail, similarly, you can follow similar conventions. And let's see how it named the components with, yeah, the capitalized first. Okay. Now let's ask it to create course card to rewrite course list using the course card. And let's also ask it to do the styling like of how we want. So for courses, let's display them in grid, and also let's ask it to create card with some like shadows, borders, etc. So we can all describe it to it, and let's see what kind of how exactly it does the styling. To be And I don't know if it will actually do that, but we don't have images at the moment, and since this is just chat UI, it won't be able to generate the images. But we can ask it to create like something that looks like a thumbnail using the styling. I don't know, something like that. All right, so I'm gonna stop generating because it gave us sample course data when it should take the course data from the Supabase, and but maybe because we asked it to do the colors. Okay, can you use get course function from Supabase? That is why it's good to be as detailed as possible. Let's see if it's okay. Pages, courses, and then it added some classes for the styling. Make sure to import. And if we say continue, it should continue because we also asked for the course card. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, if you ever see, or sometimes it cuts off in the middle of the word because it hits character limit, so just say continue. Generate background color. Oh, interesting. So it actually did a color flows and text flows based on course title. Okay. Let's get to components, course card. And I don't think I updated this one, but pages, courses, let's create courses folder, not the file. In the local host, we can navigate to courses. Can't resolve prop types. We can ask it to remove, or we can just remove it ourselves and just let it know that next time don't add prop types. So that was in course card, or you can also install it. Depends on the preferences. Okay, class names. So let's install the class names since npm install class names. Save that. It is a good library to use like when making conditional statements in Tailwind. So, okay, courses. What about components? Can I read properties of undefined? Okay, so it messed up the import statement of Supabase. So if we ask it to next time, let's see what it says. As default things. Okay, then it'll go as data version. And we do have courses. Okay, so there's no price, just the title and the description, background white. So this is supposed to be the image, and text font, interesting. Background I, PJ. Yeah, those are definitely not the colors. Let's just set this to gray and this one as well. Now let's move on to authentication and see how we can implement that using ChatGPT. We want to use super-based auth, and we want to ask how to create pages or how to protect our pages. So which pages are going to be for authenticated users and etc. It's going to tell us how to set that. We will tell we are setting authentication. After courses page. Let's see if we have Supabase UI. Might not be installed, so I'm going to copy that. And display. Oh, it does come with UI, so we don't have to create a separate. And now protect certain pages is going to show us how to have like courses display only on for authorized users. Let's see if we don't, it by default selected Google for us, providers. We would have to configure Google, so let's see if it can give us authentication only by username and password. Okay, so this credentials is what's gonna add, and options, custom, DIY, change your email to your desired username field. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to use the custom methods, just, okay, it's just showing us. Now let's check if one thing is users can actually sign in and sign up, but another is creating user table. So let's see if this is actually gonna create a user table that we can get information like email of users from. Because in Firebase, for example, we have to create a separate like table where we can reference user ID in Firestore. So let's see. Because if not, then we can also ask to create a custom sign-up function where we do that. We'll create users table. Okay, so just importing courses. That's great. And now it's giving us the function when we can fetch courses that user is taking. Later on, we can also ask, once we have the users created, for us to map some courses to it. But first, okay, let's get started with this installing the UI piece first. Npm install Supabase UI. This, we already have a layout. If we don't, I think let's reference the file structure that it proposed, which is here, and in components we can create layout.js. We still need to check imports if it looks correct. Import Tailwind CSS. So we don't need to import Tailwind. I'm gonna remove that. Render Authentication UI. Render the rest of the layout. Okay, and then children. Go here. Perfect. Now we can take this layout and add it to our either index page or courses page. Let's add it to the courses page. So, and then this is export default. And I'm gonna wrap the rest of the components inside the layout here. And to resolve, why is that? Oh, it's inside components. Supabase is not defined. It would be nice to like have a list of few things that we want to remind it every time, because I think it did. Oh, it actually didn't import Supabase at all. Okay, that's not working. Well, Google, we don't have that configured. Let's do credentials. Okay, in the Next.js documentation, so I'm gonna follow that instead since we're getting errors. And apparently there's a helpers library for Next.js. We had the one for React, but probably this one is more suitable. So I'm gonna go ahead, install it, and also follow the directions here. Additionally, install for React components and hooks. So we do already have that one installed. And setting up environment, retrieve your project URL for API settings. We did already set the environment variables since we connected to Supabase, but we should check because it's probably using these very specific names, like this helper function. So we should probably check if our names are matching. That would be in the env variable. So yeah, here it's using anon key instead of the key, and public, what is the key? Public Supabase. So yeah, let's update this one. Save it, and also let's update it was used in only in Supabase files. So yep, so we need to change it, and once we update the environment variables, let's rerun the application. After that, there's like a basic setup code that's provided to us that's in pages app.js, and going to that, I'm gonna copy this, and let's leave the styles declaration. Everything else we should have that, and I think this should be export default. Yeah, export default. Okay, cool. Supabase is not defined because wait, Oops. Reading dark. Okay, let's double check the documentation for Auth UI. So we have UI React and Auth UI shared. So this one is coming from theme, is coming from Auth UI shared. So actually this code that we got from ChatGPT is incorrect. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this package. I think that should be it for our setup, or we don't really need to use like a dark theme. So let's remove this and follow this one here. Maybe, yeah, we can also try create client or Swift-based client, just passing the one we already have instead of this function, but let's see if it's gonna work. Oh, okay. So we got the login page, looks great. And now what we can do is, this is inside layout. Okay, so let's change the logic. If the session is not there, then display the auth. And if it's there, we can show the children. The auth form, just the code for the container and its class names. Responsive, let's say full width on mobile. So hide flags, item center, justify content, etc. And then we have another so this is how you can also utilize to create responsive styles, because sometimes it's tedious to define separate styles for mobile, desktop, then we have other breakpoints like tablet, and what this is doing is like it's by mobile first design, and it followed when I asked not to create like form itself, it just named it children. So I'm gonna copy this, and where's our auth? So we already have flex column, minimum height screen stuff, plus, but okay. Okay, and then it's responsive. Let's see on mobile. Okay, it does expand to the full width. Great. Now I'm gonna create an account to my email. I see this link, which I'm going to press, and it takes us to the application, which means I'm already logged in. Update index page, so it goes to like courses automatically if the user is logged in, and also we can ask it to create a header and a footer, so we can put those in the layout. So I'm gonna head over here, and header should include some kind of like navigation and the sign out, sign in button. So I'm gonna ask links to, let's do courses, categories, and account, where user can go in and make changes to the account page, and then the sign out. just in case, so it doesn't use any other stack. And what I want is that it to check if user is logged in, then display sign out and etc. And it should also give us the functions, as in from Supabase, like sign out function and sign in. And let's see if it, okay, so it creates links, and those links are next links, which is great. It also created a class for session and loading. So if we have a session, we're gonna get account href auth sign out API. Okay, I don't know if that's, oh, maybe because we had a helper. Yeah, we're gonna check out and sign in. So in this example, we're using use session hook, that's correct. And then it's showing us how we can use the header. So let's go ahead. Header JSX, basically one more thing to see if all the imports look correct. All right. I'm gonna import this here. I believe it was probably a default import. Not, we should get an error. And oh yeah, navigation here we have already class that it has created, so let's just place it here, or you can also replace. Probably this contains nav information. Okay, yeah, so we don't need this anymore. Can go to either is not a function or its return is not iterable. So use session. Do we have, okay, let's see if we have use session. Wait, this is coming from header. Okay, so we're already using use session in the layout. Okay, so the import is actually wrong. It should have done this. Not iterable. So, okay, we can just have session. How about this? I'm gonna update this with P. Okay, let's see if sign out would actually work. This page is not found. Getting so instead, I would suggest, because we haven't created this API, I would ask maybe, is there a function we can use? Okay, that is what we want. Inside signout.js, you can implement. Okay, so it gave us a function, create a new file in. So we don't need to create an API endpoint, but let's see if that's the only option. So just update your header component to use an API endpoint. Okay, I think I'm just gonna directly use the Supabase sign out. So gonna copy that one and So here, the same way we have the client in the layout, I'm gonna do the same thing in here. Let's turn this into a button. So this has to go. And let's pass as a callback function. Oh, not this one. All right, let's see how that looks. Going back to courses. Oh, we need to import client. Sign out. See if we're getting any errors in here. Did you mean on click? Oh. Yep. Did mean on click. And I'm gonna also do the same for the sign in. We'll turn the link into a button. Okay, now let's build a search input for our courses page. So I'm gonna ask it to generate us like the input, like UI element itself, also the state, because as user starts typing, we also want the search functionality to happen. And the search will be based on, we can do title and the description. And finally, there's two options. We can search when user presses the search itself or when they start typing. Let's try first with the button. So given that will check matches against course. Was it label or title? Okay, we're not displaying, let's say. You can also check inside the tables on what fields we have. The title description, okay. And some styling, add shadow to the input box and rounded borders. Container. I'm not sure if it will do that, but maybe something close. Here's an updated version of courses page code. So it added the search term state, fetch courses, created that. Yeah, we didn't ask the order, but I guess did it handle search from courses? Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is how it's doing. So it's using or statement, title like search item. I'm just not sure where it's passing the search items, like courses, data, and help handle. As user starts typing, it's probably using this function to update the state. And let's see the updated input itself, render any other components or links here. So I'm gonna copy this. This would be the only new piece that we're getting. So this goes after course's title. Let's grab our functions and we can also ask questions or see if it already described how this is happening. So set courses and search term. That triggers handle search, okay. Interesting. So let's say if I do web and then press enter. Okay, it filters out. Interesting. And on empty, it returns all. Wow, that's impressive. Now, instead, oops. Let's see if we can update that as user is typing, and instead of the search, the text itself, we're gonna want to display like a lookup icon. I don't know if that's the right name. As user is let's see if it's gonna generate SVG for that or suggest like a library. Okay, it did add a library. We can also go ahead, install it before it finishes writing the code. In install, oops, why is it caps lock? All right, so I don't believe this is. Oh, maybe we can just add React icons. Okay, yeah, I was gonna just ask, but so I did that, and it also probably updated the functions. So handle search, set search term, maybe in use effect. This updated version we replaced. Okay, so it did ignore, it just replaced it, but as user is typing, the search function that happens as the user types. All right, now I'll be more specific, but first let's update this icon. Did I? search term, that's the name of the state. Updated, and no need to submit, and have a button to trigger search. Search button. Search button. Okay, I can update that. So the update would be simple. We can just trigger handle search after the set search item. But there might be a caveat to it that update is delayed because when handle search is triggered, maybe the such search term hasn't finished updating. But so data grab. So it would be more noticeable in, like, for example, now I deleted all of them and it's not giving all the results. But yeah, definitely not as I'm typing, but it's more noticeable on bigger applications. So if I was working on this would be one of the things that I was improve to make it like a production ready application. But we can also ask what it thinks to trigger. Maybe this will work. Search when user starts typing automatically. Okay, maybe that was the keyword that I was missing. Call handle search on input change. Yep, it's doing the same thing like I did. It added the handle search here. But with the update, okay. Let's see. Search. If user clears let's see if it has solution for not updating, like updates being late, to call conditionally only when the input is not empty. Okay. Yeah, this is kind of like a hacky solution, but let's do that. Let's try if it fetch course. Also, this is not gonna work because fetch courses is defined inside use effect, but basically how I would resolve this is I would trigger handle search inside use effect. So this use effect triggers when the page mounts, right? And then here we pass search term as a dependency. And then let's pass handle search data. Okay, now it's getting updated as we delete it as well. Perfect. Moving on to the categories, we do already have the link at the top, but we don't actually have a page for it, nor do we have categories in the database. So let's first ask it to create a categories table, and maybe also in the script, link our courses to categories. Write a script for SQL editor in this. You create. Because right now, if we go to courses, it does have a category, but this is not actually a relationship. The type of this, as we can see from Supabase, is like a variable. And then this is kind of like, should be like character type. So it's not linked to anything. There's no relationship. And let's see. Okay, so we have our script, create categories table. First things first, we have to do that, then create categories junction table and add a unique constraint to prevent duplicate links. Okay, so this is for a relationship. We create categories with table ID and the name. Okay, can you also add okay, it's also going to insert. All right, let's run this one first and then update the relationship. So where's our SQL editor? Create a table. Oops. Command enter. And let's double check that it was created. Mass sense history. Perfect. And then is there a way to just new query? Okay. Yeah, I don't want to select category every time. Okay, now we're going to create a junction table. Command enter. So failed to run SQL query, foreign key constraint cannot be implemented. All right. Oh, that doesn't exist in courses table. Yeah, I was going to ask to update courses, but maybe write as no, okay. I should have been more specific because it just showed us how to update the table. To resolve this issue, make sure courses table names match. Okay. For so it's going to update course table to remove any courses that do not have corresponding categories. Okay, so I ended up finding the issue and then I ran this query. It worked. The issue was that it was marking the type was wrong in here. So it was marking course ID also as integer. And then I checked the tables to get the types. And I'm just going to name the query create relation, oops, rename. Okay, now I'll ask it to, in the existing, if we can update existing courses and add categories to it. Oh, but it won't know the ID, so we might have to do that just from the table. Let's select courses. We should be able to directly add the reference from here. Can we browse? Let's see. Insert row. Select record. Perfect. And I'm just gonna randomly has a foreign key relationship, so I don't think we can have duplicates, but let's see. Python for data science. Okay. That should be all courses. Now I'm gonna ask it when we are getting the course if it can update the functions, so we are also getting our categories with it. So that would be inside course list. And as you can see, the more we're building out the application, we have more context, and it's getting harder to every time. Sometimes it remembers the context, sometimes it doesn't relate to it. So every time passing all this information when it's just one search input, it's becoming a little bit redundant, and that's why it is a better, it still can be done so far with this level of complexity because we're still not we don't have a lot of elements. But as we go into more complex, it's harder to manage. And let's, without further explanation, I'm gonna tell it that this is what we're using and say, rerun. And modify the course card so it includes category. Let's do a pill tag. So it fetches all the categories initially, which I don't know if we actually need the categories. Maybe like this one. When we're fetching courses, we can also fetch the relation. And let's see how it's using this field. Set courses. Okay, fetch categories. Filtered. Oh, this is, it added it for filtering. Interesting. No why the colors keep changing, but okay, then we have the layout. Let's see where it added filters, or I don't know what this SVGs for. Oh, SVG, I think it's the search one, but we're using the icon from the library already for that. And oh, it updated, it even filtered the courses without asking. I just don't know where do the filtered categories, where is this getting updated? Okay, so it should be. Okay, let's try, I think, course card. So it wrote the code with slight modifications, so I'm just gonna copy what it updated. First thing is this array, state. And I believe the search term we have inside course page, yeah. Yeah, so let's add that in here. Same for fetching and the function. Not this one, but this one. So this, for fetch courses, we have that inside the use effect. So I'm gonna add the categories in use effect as well for filtered courses. And we can also, ask it to continue while I'm coding that so it can explain what it did and where we can use this filtered courses. Anyways, handle search. I'm gonna add this in the end. Oh, and then we asked it for it also to update course page. Let's add that mapping instead of, we don't have the class for filtered courses. That is the, oh, it does it afterwards. Okay. Okay. So we're just passing course as a course, and we can add another props, but I'm not just gonna like directly copy it, since then we would have to change course card a lot as well, and we'll just copy this one. Done. Okay. Course and category here. Courses page, fetch courses. We don't need to fetch courses one more time, but okay, we have filter, search term, SVG. Okay, that loading screen. Course card, and continue one more time because it stopped here. Okay, so after continue, it's giving us the updated course code for course card. I don't know if it picked up some different data set because right now it's giving us more improved code with more functionalities without even asking for it. So for example, like ID, it knows that it has, that we're going to create, or we would need to create like a separate link for each of the course. It also even provided like images, even though there's no image of this like on the Unsplash. It's good to have just this like link with like, you know, added classes, etc. It's pretty impressive, I would say. And then it added field for category, price, which it didn't do it before, and I haven't even asked for it. And even we have a button for enroll. Wow, I would say that is really impressive. Let's see if it actually works though. Okay, so I'm gonna close the sides out. Here we are on the course card. The difference is that it destructs your category from here, but I passed it separately, and let's import link from next link. And wrap our div inside a link. Okay, courses, and for ID we're gonna have, or we can get ID from here. Next up, I'm gonna leave the styling that we have right now and just going to add this one after. So the title, select that it updated the title to be H2, font bold, text large. Okay, let's leave that one. Let's add description. Oh wait, we have this actually goes. Oh yeah, we already had category. I'm gonna remove this. That was like the hard-coded, the one that we had in the database, and not hard-coded, but it was not referred to actual table. And then after, let's say the title, we put description, then we want to add price and the button. We'll ask it next to also add the functionality for the button, but first let's check if the categories are actually getting loaded. Can declare variable defined with category. Interesting. Constant. Reassign. Oh, we already have one. That is true. Yeah, let's remove that. And here. Okay. Yes, unrecognized though. To fix the categories not being mapped properly issue, I'm gonna go to courses table and I will add a column here. Let's name this categories ID, and here the key is to add a foreign key relationship, and inside here we can select the relationship to the categories and select the column from public categories to reference to. Yeah, we're gonna identify it using the ID, and action needed, no action. There records existing. Let's do cascade and save. So, moving this out, saving this one as well. So it's successful created categories ID. Let's populate it right now. So, and then here we can see this link. So that means it's linked. Let's see if it's gonna let me select. Okay, so we can just select directly from here. I'll just pick one randomly. And now how can we get this data on our side, client-side query? So here we have API docs that we can look at to make sure our queries look good, and we're going to take a look at it. It's also categorized, so For the courses, we already have a Supabase from courses where we select everything, but let's see how we can select a nested relationship. And that would be read rows, filtering from courses, select categories. So we can just directly, oh, one more thing, we have, so we don't need this category anymore now that we have the link. So I'm gonna do this and directly delete from here. And going back to the API docs, courses, let's say ID. Oh, so we can do from courses, select categories ID, and let's see how we can just directly access the categories table from there. Okay, let's see if this is gonna work. I'm gonna update from codes. Let's do this. And let's select everything that's related for courses. And here, let's have, and inside here, we can grab ID and name. That's the only two fields anyways, or we can also use like asterisks. Save it. And if we reload the page right now and open the inspector, we should see that the categories comes in as a like an object, and courses page once again, state, and here we have the data object for the question, and it does include categories. Now what we can do is, the reason it says unrecognized is because we're passing in the object, so we should say we just want to get the name. That would be inside course card. Oh wait, we don't need the list. Oh, actually, yeah, it is getting the, oh, categories comes in as an object, so okay. Dot name, then if this exists, then it would be the name. Is that how it is? Yes. Okay, let's save this, and if we reload right now, we get the names as well. Let's quickly fix also the color of this one. Introduction. Okay, so this would be inside course card, wherever we have title. I'm just gonna set it same color, or maybe like one shade darker as the description. Okay, that looks better. So even though we have authentication and we're able to sign up users and let them also log in, we still don't have users table where we can add other information about user, for example, saved courses and etc. in the database. So in this prompt, we are gonna see how we can create that table and accommodate those courses list. So giving context that we have authentication working and we need a script that will create this profiles table and that would connect it to currently existing auth users. And what it is doing is actually it's referencing, it's still generating user ID, which is going to be a unique ID, but it is referencing it from auth.users. That is how we access this, like users from our authentication feature, and username is unique full. Okay, it added some other fields which I didn't ask to, bio, avatar, time set, etc. And alter tables profile, it also added gender and birth date. This creates, okay, The user ID is set up as a foreign key to the ID. Okay, now that we have the unique constraint to ensure that usernames are unique with the profiles tab. Once you've created profiles, you can create a new profile for each user when they first sign up or log in. So this is kind of like manual approach. We can improve that, but for now, let's follow the manual one first. Our SQL editor, let's run a new query. No rows returned. I'm gonna also rename this. And let's check if we have table profiles here, and let's insert row. So for ID, it could be generated. This would be also automatic. And user ID, let's select record. We should only have one record where I confirmed the email. Yeah, that's that one. Username. Else. Name. Bio. I'm not gonna set those and save. Hopefully none of them were required. Okay, so that's that. We have this user, and now let's ask it to create an accounts page. So we'll start building out accounts page where user, first we want to see user that we're logged in with, and then afterwards we want to let them change their information. This should be in the format of a form, and once they click save, their information should be sent to the database. And what else is there? Afterwards we do that, then we're gonna start building out relationship to the courses, so saving saved courses, and then we're gonna list that on the account page as well. But first let's get this done. I am going to this code fetches profile from, and then this is the fields, then it created a handle update profile function. Now this assumes, so it's giving us a warning that we should have this. If not, you'll create the tables before using this code. Perfect. Oh, and I think it was giving us code, but that script we already ran, but let's just, in case, is this the same one? Yeah, I think it's the same one. Okay, I'm just gonna copy the first version. It's giving us inside. We don't have pages created, account pages created, so I'm gonna create a new file. .js. Actually, I'll create like folder instead. And then in here, new file index. Let's copy this, make sure everything looks good. The Supabase is an import default. We don't have use user from auth. Oh, see, now it's giving us a different. Let's ask it. So for this line create, certainly auth.js file would typically be So it created sign in, sign up, etc. Those files, functions which we don't need since we're using the wrapper, and update profile, but I'm not seeing use user will be used in the use user hook. Okay, so here wherever we have use user, there's nothing that's, oh, maybe it returns an user, but I doubt that. I think we can get session from however we're getting in the header. Maybe this one has session. Yeah, Supabase auth. And we only need user ID, so session. Oops. So still we're gonna remove this too. If session, let's do if session. ID. We're gonna find the user in our profiles table using that ID, and then we can set it. I'm going to remove this console log here. And then handle profile. Okay, this should look good. We only have 2 forums and user profile. So if not here, then we can just display that it's loading. So all right, Supabase is not defined. Yes, because deleted definition. That's library. Yes, here we have name, as you guys remember, that's what I put in. And then bio, we can update the profile. Let me real quick add the container here, just so it's like equals flex, justify center, items, center, and then another one. Oops. Gonna come after our logic. So, and let me set the width to. Okay. So this is not. Oh, by default, justify content. That should be maybe like okay. By default, the container does not have margin auto. Also, we need to add like the header at the top. Yeah, because layout we can extract that. Anyways, let's see if it updates bio. User is not defined. Okay, so we also need to update the handler profile function. That would be session user ID. Updated successfully, okay. Let's move on to the saved courses and ask how we can handle that. So first we need to update tables, add most likely a column for the courses and a relationship. Instead, it did create user saved courses table and it added references to both users and courses. Okay, and add a unique constraint to prevent duplicate saves. That's good. Alter table courses and add save count. Interesting. So we know how many times the course has been saved. Create or replace function increment. Update user saved course to increment. Oh, every time there's a new one, it will automatically update. We don't have to actually do it from the query, which is nice. Increment saved count trigger. Update to decrement. So that took that into consideration. And the script creates a new table with main to relationship between users and courses. Add the unique constraint to prevent duplicate triggers. Okay. Now let's see how we can take a relationship and put it into the database. So that would be function enrolling course, and that's gonna take the session from Supabase. Okay, I guess that's another way of accessing the session, and insert user ID course ID single. There. Okay. And the next I'll ask how we can fetch the saved courses. So let's hopefully this script works because last time that we created a relationship didn't really work out. New query. References where okay, auth users. I guess we could maybe better to reference profiles table, but let's see if it works. So no rows return. Okay, here's our user saved courses. It does reference user ID and course ID. That's great. Okay. And let's try this function. Copied and going to course card where we have this button, and I will add that in here. We can move this into here. Actually, let's So course card, library. We don't need those. Just okay. Let's save it, and should be user saved courses. Let's see what it says when we don't. The function to trigger await post. Okay, yeah, that's. We're not using API, so it's assuming we're going to create a separate API for that. So let's just do this. And going through. Oops, once again, it's unrecognized. It's weird because sometimes it fetches the category, sometimes it does not. Even though the query is the same, like I have not updated. Where is this? Not the course card. Here. It's supposed to get it. Okay. So let's try if Enroll works. I don't know if it's doing some kind of caching because. Oh, wow. Okay. Sign out. Enroll. Oh, because I pressed. Oh, this is a link and we don't have link yet. Okay, I'm gonna remove the link. Session is not a yeah, same thing. The way we are getting a session, we can replicate that since that's working already for us. So and that's a hook, so I'm gonna define outside of the function and constant user equals we can access user like that session. Please try again. Okay. Starting at object. So try, and then we have let's see if it's saved. Okay, no, it didn't save either. We are not passing the course ID, and that is, we can just take it from here. Yes. Okay, let's ask now to get all our saved courses for us. But that would be, I'm going to pass the name of the table. Relation table. Oh, wait. We are Supabase. Okay. We want to, I think it's thinking I just want to run it in SQL editor. This courses JS page, maybe that would yeah, we don't have an API. And we also don't have this library. Oh, it's trying to get. Okay, saved courses. I'm gonna open this to the side, and here let's add that extra state for the saved courses. Let me scroll. Or maybe we can create like a separate component that would be probably better and then import it into the account. For that, I'll create in components, new file, saved courses.jsx, and let's copy this, paste it, and maybe user ID, we already have it on account, so we're just gonna get that from account. Let's remove, go over line by line. Supabase saved courses user ID. Let's pass that and fetch. If we have user ID, Course IDs, etc. It should get from here. Data, okay, and then saved courses. It's just gonna list the titles, which is good enough for now. Let's import this in the account, export default, yep. User profile. This will be once we have user profile available. Before that, we can't pass user ID equals. I think we should be able to access this from here. So I think I misspelled saved courses. Yeah. Your saved courses. Let's see what's the data here, because it should create a list. Are we on the, okay. Set saved courses, course data. Oh, if we don't have access to the, I don't think this one saves. Yeah, because this condition has set saved courses, but I don't know if this one has. You know, it's syntax for type UID. I think I'm using let's see what we have in user. So accounts, count, state. Oh, it's user underscore ID. All right, that's what I'm gonna pass. Okay. Yes, okay, so now we can see the JavaScript. So fundamentals that I enrolled in on the courses page. Layout from inside of the courses page to our application file, because we want to have the header also on our courses, so, and other pages. So let's do this. And that should be fine. And going to pages index.js. Maybe app.js would be. Okay, so this is where we have the session context provider, and in here I can do layout, then also import it at the top. So it's in this is inside pages, so find it's probably default. Okay, yeah. Great. Going back to courses, now if I'm enrolled in JavaScript fundamentals, also not sure why this is not getting this relation loaded. Let's try one thing. Okay, now it's there. Weird. So if I'm already enrolled in JavaScript fundamentals, let's see if we can ask it to update this button and show like enrolled or maybe like a check mark. And I think, is it React icon library? Yeah, React. And let's give it the name of the table just in case it goes down a different route, and that would be user saved courses. Created also a bookmark icon, so instead of having a text of enroll, we can just press that to save a class and probably removing that, and if loaded, and when the button loads, it checks redirected. Okay, I'm gonna update the user part because every time I feel like it gives us different ways of checking user session, but we already have a way that we figured out is working for us. I'm just going to use that. And okay, so it's supposed to fetch the courses and check which one's included, which course ID we have, and we are passing course ID as a prop. So let me copy code right now. Enroll like button is just inside course card, so I'm going to create a new file for that. Let's see what it named. Okay. So instead of checking user session, I'm also going to pass user ID. Yeah, because we don't want to check on every course card if we have a session or not. We can just pass it from there. So removing this one, updating Supabase. And this is in, going back library, React icons, use effective state, that's there, enrolled, set enrolled, okay, and then no user ID, same thing here, and then these are the dependencies. I'm also gonna update. If user ID or course ID changes, we have to obviously refetch this data, redirect it. Actually, we can redirect them to login. true. Actually, I'm gonna do this. This is easier. Replace it everywhere. Except... Oh no, not this one. Okay, this was already replaced. I'm just gonna do it myself. And so it inserts save the course if not already saved. Okay. And then it updates set enrolled, otherwise removes or deletes or inserts. Oh, great. And then the icon gets updated accordingly. That should be fine. Let's import this into course card. And we also need, we don't need onClick anymore because it's gonna do that. And let's see, so course ID is going to be equal to ID here. And then user ID. That one, we can also pass it down from courses index. We don't already have that, right? Okay. Just gonna move this here. User ID equals, let's see if this is the case, and inside, okay, so once we map, and now let's go back to course card, get user ID from here, so we can pass it in here. The one issue is that if user ID hasn't been loaded, it should still update. Use session. Okay. Import statement at the top. Okay, so I have this enrolled, so it's showing that I'm enrolled in here. I wonder what it's supposed to show when, because we do have the logic. Bookmark. So maybe because it doesn't have a color or... Oh, yep, outline works. Great. Let's also actually all this to the left. Load this categories get updated. So maybe there's some kind of caching issue that I would note to like double check if categories are not fetched, then refetch it. That should solve it. So this would be it for this project. And to quickly recap what we did, so we set up this course app using Next.js, Supabase, Tailwind. We used React Icon for our icon library and then few of the other libraries. After that, we set up a schema to define courses, categories, and user. We did the seeding of the database, meaning like putting some dummy data for testing in it. We also checked using a GPT what like file structure should look like, what schema should look like. Even it generated data for us, and we utilized it also for styling, creating this like responsive grid elements, all this like colors and etc. We implemented authentication, and then after that we created users table where we store more information about the user. Users can log in using email and password, and we also tried to came across, obviously there were some issues that we try to debug using the documentation of Supabase itself and ChatGPT. We created this like layout that right now it only has a header that, and then layout is conditional, meaning if we're on a sign-in page, it's not going to show up. Also, for the courses page, we have categories page. We created relationships in between those, and then we created a relationship between user and the courses. We created functionality for user to save the courses or remove the course, and for them to go to their account, get their information, get their saved classes, and also update their profile. Like future changes that I would do is probably on the accounts page, I would add all the fields that we have right now in the table. Like I think there was the image, there was like gender, year, etc. And then for the save courses, maybe I'll modify, I'll get more information about the course, and I'll also give like a remove button that they can like remove the course, like their enrollment. And going back to courses page, yeah, we also did this search where we can filter out our database, either like descriptions or the name of the courses, these categories. I still have to fix that, but we also have pricing, and we wanting like filtering behind the scenes like functions exist, but we haven't actually added filters. So for example, price filter would be a good feature to like practice on next. And going forward, these are some of the aspects of development that I would consider using ChatGPT as an assistant. First one would be code optimization techniques. What are some of the ways to optimize performance in this application is one thing you can ask. What are some of the ways of fetch this kind of data faster, and or how to test the performance itself is something that you can ask. And not only performance, but in general, if you're using Jest or if you have never used it, for example, it might suggest that as a tool that you can use and ask like guidelines or list of like a template of how you can test certain weather components or API requests or etc. Also very helpful in writing a README or technical documentation. For example, in our case, like I would say based on the code that was generated in this conversation. So that way it kind of like parses through and takes like the whole conversation as a context. Generated a README that lists step-by-step guide on how to set up the project. So we did set it up, but we also want to see step-by-step guide. And also I'm going to add README I'll put this project in a GitHub repository and the link would be shared. So also you can go over the README there and set it up yourself. And if I set up this boilerplate code, very simple, probably next thing I would do is just have a list of things that I thought about or could be a good practice to follow along and the professional website or working application would need. So you can ask it to, now in this case, before that it was your senior architect, it was software engineer. Now you can ask it to be a product manager and tell it that you already wrote some code and write the other tasks that would be needed to be accomplished. And what I would do is probably it's gonna list tasks in bullet points. So I would maybe take this, put it in Notion, and have a Zapier integration that from the Notion payroll database, it automatically creates Jira, Asana, whichever is your task management tool tasks. And then you can go over the board. You can even assign it to other people or for yourself to have a good way of continuing working on this. Or if you're new to full stack development, you kind of see this template of what are the list of things that need to be done. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. You learned how to use ChatGPT, but also some other concepts and thank you for watching.